Welcome to Issues That Matter. I'm Cynthia Pooler. My guest today is Anthony Constantino, and Anthony was running in the primary in this 21st Congressional District of New York. So, Anthony, what made you get involved in the race for Congress?
Yeah, I had no plan to do it. I had no plan to be a politician. Some people know I was one of the first people to speak up after the president was shot. He was shot in Butler, and I sent out an endorsement. It went viral, created a big media explosion. Then I put up a beautiful sign that said, "Vote for Trump" on top of my building because I wanted to get more people comfortable admitting they liked the president. There was a problem with that at the time. He ends up winning re-election. One of his associates, Roger Stone, invites me to dinner. Neither of us knew there was going to be a congressional vacancy. On the way to dinner, I get word that the president made the great decision to nominate Congresswoman Stefanik to the UN. I said, "Roger, this just happened. What do you think?" Roger said, "I really think you should go for it." We only knew each other for about 20, 30 minutes at the time. For whatever
Oh,
reason, he said you should go for it. And me and Roger ended up spending the week together. We went to Mar-a-Lago. We got to get dinner. We saw the president briefly. And then I thought about it. I said, I never did this before, but, why not? I want the best possible people in government. I want people that are in it with good intentions. And like one thing people don't realize is, if you're purely political and that's been your career path, it's a little bit harder to do the work of the people because you're always thinking about how to protect your own financial interests. Whereas if you're a business person like myself or President Trump or Elon Musk, you're not as concerned about the political money and you can do what you genuinely think makes sense. And so I got into the race for that reason, and it was an interesting experience. Ultimately, the president decided to call the election off, but it was an interesting experience.
why was it so interesting?
Well, I never did politics before, and I ended up winning.
Okay.
I ended up winning every poll. It's an honor to say I won every poll. We did 3 internal polls. I won the first one by 1 point. I won the second one by 2 points. I won the third one by 3 points. No, 9 points. I'm sorry. First by 1, then 2, then 9 over the GOP field. 20 established politicians were interested in the situation, and I polled number one. By the end, I had 47% of the support amongst voters, which is almost half the voters wanted to back me against a slate of career politicians. So that was a big honor. People started doubting whether my internal polls were legitimate because we were running them ourselves. But, I said, I knew we were doing them in a legitimate way. So ultimately, we went to the president's pollster. We went to Tony Fabrizio, who's the president's pollster, highly respected pollster. I had to cut him a check for almost $60,000 to run a poll that was conducted by him. And that poll also showed I was the winner, both amongst the GOP field and against the Democrat in the event the election actually happened. I was one of only 2 candidates that were in position to beat the Democrat. So I ended up, feeling very honored to have participated in the process. And I guess I have a pretty cool political resume now saying no experience in politics, won every poll, including one by the president's own pollster, which, for me is, sort of a badge of honor.
You know, when Trump dropped Stefanik from uh, getting the UN post, his rationale, according to the newspapers and media, was that the majority of Republicans was so slim that he didn't want to take any chances. You know as well as I did that the 21st is strictly a red state. So I just couldn't believe the rationale for Stefanik pulling out.
I understood it because I was living it and I got to see it very up close, and I got to see a lot of things that people don't necessarily see. Like one issue I was bringing up to people from the beginning is we have a turnout problem during special elections. I haven't been involved in the political world for a long time, but everyone says there's a turnout issue during special elections because most voters don't even know the special election's happening. And so when we tested the poll with the president's pollster, my polls did not test for likelihood of voting, but the president's pollster, Tony Fabrizio, tested for likelihood of voting, and we saw that there was an issue with Republicans actually wanting to vote or knowing there was an election. So ultimately, the polls actually showed, and one of the issues we had was many of the Republican bosses that were involved in picking a nominee. It was a special election, so the party leaders got to pick the nominee, not the voters. I tried to use the poll as a persuasion tactic, as a point of evidence to say why they should pick me, but the party leaders thought it was a for sure winnable seat, and so they were all fighting for their buddy. They were all fighting for their best friend that they thought they could work with and really to make money with, or whatever the case may be, or maybe it was just friendship. But it wasn't a guaranteed winnable seat because special elections have a turnout problem, and the president's pollster ended up bringing that to light. It showed that many of the other candidates running were not in position to win against the Democrat because enthusiasm just wasn't there. Many people weren't planning to vote.
Did you keep an eye on the Democratic field?
Well, there was the Democrats, I said, the issue that we had, and I think it's like just human nature, the issue we had is the Republicans viewed this seat as a guaranteed win, and the Democrats viewed the seat as a difficult to win. Like for them, it would
Right,
have been a big victory if they won. So right
right.
away, the Democrats thought about how to win, and the Republican Party leaders really they thought about how to make money because they saw it as a big opportunity for themselves. So the Democrats said we need the best candidate because we want to win. So they did an analysis really quickly and they found a good candidate and they decided to back him. The Republicans all fought amongst themselves because they were all thinking about an angle to profit off the situation because they viewed it as a guaranteed win where the candidate didn't matter. The refrain I heard over and over and over again was the candidate doesn't matter. We can win with anybody. And that ended up not being true. This was like small town thinking, local thinking. The president saw the poll. He realized that very quickly. And we had the tragic decision made by the Conservative Party chairman, really, because the party wasn't really involved, but the Conservative Party chairman endorsed a anti-Trump Republican. He endorsed a never Trump Republican. And we were going to have a split ticket situation where the conservatives were going to have an anti-Trumper on the line, and the Republicans were, if the president got his way, end up having me on the line.
So, since the uh, election ended, you're stepping into something quite interesting. Uh, Tell everybody what you're planning on doing.
Well, I've been doing everything I can to try to bring information and excitement and enthusiasm back to New York. We've lost 2 million people over the last 10 years because the enthusiasm's not here anymore. Everybody knows the policies are in a bad direction. The biggest thing we need to do is get people back to New York. So I put the vote for Trump sign up. I said it's sort of a tourist attraction. And then yesterday was an important day in America. And so I made another big announcement that I'm going to be buying Six Flags and turning it into Trumpland to bring people back. But don't feel so bad. I got a lot of people with this because it ended up being an April Fool's joke, but I got everybody with it.
Oh, it's not true.
No, I got everybody with it. I got a lot of people. I got UFC superstars writing me, and Roger actually fell for it. Roger called me. He said, "Trump's going to sue you. What's wrong with you?" I said, "It's a joke, Roger."
Oh, that's funny. That's really
I got my
funny.
lawyers. I got both my lawyers. My lawyers, they said, "Did you fire me?" They thought they got fired, and I got new lawyers because they said, "How did you close this Six Flags deal? You never even called me." So they fell for it too. My lawyers were concerned. They thought I hired new lawyers and got new law and left them. I said, "No, I'm still working with you as a joke." But
Go ahead.
I like comedy, so it's one of the skills I have. The president's a great comedian himself, and I like to think I'm somewhat on the funny side. So I forgot it was April Fool's. Somebody reminded me at like
Right.
8 or 9 o'clock, and they said, "Tomorrow's April Fool's. What are you gonna write?" I said, They said you should say you're running for governor. I'm like, that's not that funny. So then I don't know. I just had this Trumpland idea, and I wrote it, and it went really crazy. I wish I had more time to plan it because we could have got the word out bigger. It really, the people that saw it thought you couldn't believe the people that fell for it. Roger Stone fell for it, so don't feel so bad. My lawyers fell for it. Some UFC people,
Wow.
yeah, like Henry Cejudo, who was two division UFC champ, fell for it, and some other big names fell for it too. Yeah.
So, would you consider getting back in politics?
Well, we're gonna see what happens. I want to be helpful to people. I built an incredible company. We got 1,200 people. I've had a pretty fun life, and I think one thing I realized getting into it that we really do need more people with my background that already have established financial situations. Because if you're already making money off a business or some other mechanism, whether it's being a sports star or whatever the case may be, you're in a position where you can probably advocate for things that you think make sense and you're not so controlled by the money. Most politicians they're doing it for the money. It's their career path, and it's not even that they're bad people per se. It's that they have kids and grandkids and they have to worry about their financial future. So they don't want to take risks because they're worried about, for example, the situation I was just in. I took a lot of risks which endeared me with the voters. But traditional politicians wouldn't have done the things I did because they would think they'd be jeopardizing their their political future. In my situation, I said, well, if this doesn't work out for me, I still have I still have a business. So, I was able to do things they wouldn't have done. I called out a lot of bad behavior within the Republican Party, which everybody thought was, unusual, but I think criticism makes us better.
So there was the Republican Party, and there was also the Conservative Party, right? And
Correct.
and they had to pick one candidate, and there was a problem with that.
Correct. You want the same candidate on both parties, on both lines, because otherwise you go to vote and there's a conservative candidate and a Republican candidate, and some people are going to pick the conservative one, and you're going to drop the votes for the Republican candidate, making it harder for the Republican to win. So, for whatever reason, I went out the gate day one. I did the poll, and we saw the only other candidate that the voters were interested in was a guy named Senator Steck. He was a state senator, great name recognition in New York, but he was a Trump hater. He was an anti-Trump Republican. So I knew the president was always going to reject him, that he was never going to be an option. Presidents had to deal with Mitt Romney and Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney. He didn't want to have to go through that again. So I knew he was going to reject this person. I told everyone over and over and again, I said, there's only two candidates that are liked by the voters, myself and Mr. Steck, but the president is going to reject Mr. Steck, which means there's really only one candidate. I finally did the Fabrizio poll. The Fabrizio poll confirmed it. The only candidates that were winning against the Democrat were myself and Mr. Steck. President Trump saw that they made the endorsement of Mr. Steck. He had two options at that point. He could have either called me and asked me to support Mr. Steck, or he could have called the conservatives and asked them to rescind their endorsement of Mr. Steck and back me. And he just said it's not worth the hassle. There's not really much upside here. The situation's a mess now. And I think that was his calculation, and I would have done the same.
So for the next cycle, would you consider running?
We're gonna see what happens. We have a great congresswoman right now. Elise Stefanik does a great job. I got involved because I wanted to make sure she got replaced by somebody good. It's very difficult to replace a person that's already performing well. Elise performs and does her job very well. So I knew it was going to be difficult to replace her. As soon as I heard she was leaving and going to a new position, I got involved because I said we want to have her replaced by somebody that can, do good things. And the voters ended up agreeing with me. So it really depends on, it depends on the future. I want to help the people. I want to help my state. So we'll have to see what happens in the future. But I think she's doing a good job. So I think she's doing a great job. So right now I'll probably be thinking about how to help in other ways.
I've never interviewed somebody that played an April Fool's joke like you did. That's really funny.
I didn't know if you're going to be mad at me for holding out and
Oh
telling you during the
no,
interview.
no, I think it's cool. I think it's funny.
Yeah, it was great. Everybody liked it.
We need more humor in this country right now.
Yeah, you might like this. I did comedy. I spoke to I got to know the head writer for Jay Leno some years
Uh-huh.
ago, and he was a Democrat actually, and he told me he was a Democrat, but he said Jay Leno never gave away his political beliefs in his comedy. We had a rule that we played it down the middle. We nobody knew what Jay Leno was. Nobody knew what David Letterman was at the time, and he said the way it's going now in this country with Stephen Colbert and the other guy, what's the other guy that's so bad, Jimmy Kimmel.
Mm,
They're not comedians anymore; they're partisan crybabies. But
right.
I asked him. I said, "You're a Democrat." I said, "I got to ask you though, what do you think about President Trump's comedic abilities?" And he said, "Anthony, I got to tell you, he's probably one of the best comedians in the world today. Not only is he a good politician, he goes, I got to give him credit. He's probably one of the best comedians that we have in the world." And probably that's why Jimmy Kimmel and Stephen Colbert are so upset that the president, not only is he a great president and a great businessman, but he's also funnier than them.
Wow. So the majority of Republicans in the House is very small. Do you think come the next election cycle, you guys are gonna hold it?
I hope so. I think we're doing. President's doing a great job. I talked to a friend of mine who was a Democrat the other day, and he was really excited to see me in Congress, believe it or not. And he felt badly the thing went the way he went, but he said he has to give President Trump a lot of credit. He really is a bipartisan, unifying president. My friend who's a Democrat said he respects the president for having a lot of Democrats helping him. He's accepting help from Elon Musk, a former Democrat. He's accepting help from Jeff Bezos, a former, as far as I know, a Democrat. Mark Zuckerberg was at the inauguration offering help to the president. Mark Zuckerberg's a big time Democrat. So I think the voters have to realize President Trump wants what's best for the country. He's working with all the smartest people to deliver results for us. He's doing great things with Elon Musk, with Doge, cutting wasteful spending. The wasteful spending's out of control. And I can tell the voters from my own experience, don't discount the extent to which the swamp exists. There's a national swamp, there's a local swamp.
Right.
Most of these people that are in the political world, they're thinking about money because not because they're bad people, because they need to pay their bills. They need to pay the bills of their children or their grandchildren. They need to pay college loans and college tuition and school tuition. They have bills to pay, so they think a lot about money. And people like President Trump are thinking about the people. So hopefully the people see that and we have a good result in 26, and hopefully I can help deliver a good result in some small ways as well.
So if somebody wants to contact you or join your social media, how can they do so?
Check me out on Facebook. Go to Facebook, look up Anthony Constantino. That's where the best way to reach me is, or go to my website. It's still up and running, voteforanthony.com. You can shoot me an email through there, and we're trying to respond. I'm still getting bombarded with emails. It's unbelievable. People want me to do. I got a call from a guy the other day saying, I want to sit down with you and talk about, all sorts of things I can do to help politically. So everybody's calling me. Everybody wants my help now. I think they saw my skills. We got 1,000 signs out in like 3 days. I don't think anyone ever distributed signs so effectively. I did total automation to deliver the signs, and I did a lot of good things. So reach out and follow me on social or shoot me an email.
Okay, and you're on X, right?
X through AC132 on X, or Facebook. Facebook's great for local politics. I didn't use any of this stuff until recently. I wasn't a social media person, but Facebook's great for local politics, and so that's where I'm the most active and the most entertaining. I try to be funny. So
Well, you pulled the wool over my eyes.
I'm glad you liked the joke. So it was a
So,
pleasure talking to you.
so you've been listening to Anthony Constantino. I'm Cynthia Pooler. This is Issues That Matter. So if you like this show, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Anthony, it was such a pleasure talking to you, and thanks for the laugh.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. Have a great day.